Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Lloyd. I thought I'd read you just a little extract from Pinocchio that has now been rewritten by Michael Morpurgo, but it was first written in 1883. So here's how I began. I was a tiny cherry pit in a blackbird's beak. The blackbird dropped me in an orchard below a town called Naples, and I fell to earth. After a while I grew into a fine cherry tree, blossoming wonderfully every year, until one winter's day a raging storm blew over me, and the next thing I know I am nothing but a piece of wood, a branch in a pile of other branches waiting to be burnt. And that would have been that. There would have been no Pinocchio. But as luck would have it, along came an old woodcarver. He was whistling away as he searched through the pile and talking to himself. He picked me up, turned me this way and that, peered at me, smelled me even. "This will do very well," he said. "Cherry wood, the best for carving. Just what I've been looking for." He looked about him nervously. No one's around. No one will notice, will they? He tapped me with his knuckle, knocked me against a tree. "Yes, you'll carve perfectly." That was when I spoke my first word. I heard a lot of speaking in my life, so words came easily. I just never needed them before. "Excuse me," I said, "but I do wish you wouldn't keep knocking me about like that. It hurts, and carving me up I'm sure will hurt a great deal more. I don't like the sound of that one bit." He heard me. I know that because in his surprise he dropped me on his foot. When he'd stopped hopping about, he began to search around, wondering where on earth the voice had come from. "Anyway, you just can't steal me," I went on. All right, he said, clapping his hands to his ears. "I will pay. Here, I'm leaving a coin for you on the woodpile." And with that, he tucked me under his arm and legged it. All the way I kept shouting and shouting, begging him to take me back. By the time we reached his house, I'd been shouting so loud and for so long that I'd lost my voice completely. All around the walls of this house hung the tools of his trade: chisels, planes, hammers, drills. I was terrified. To me they were nothing but instruments of torture. But when I tried to protest, nothing would come out, not a squeak, not a whisper. Then I saw the lady sitting by the fire, staring sadly into the flames. "Carissima mia," said the woodcarver, "see what I have for you, my darling." She turned and looked. "Not another log," she sighed. "How many times have you tried before? I want a real boy for a son, not a puppet. But this is the finest cherry wood, Carissima mia, and when I touch it, it has life. I feel it, I smell it, I can almost hear it. You'll see, my darling, with this piece of wood I will make you at last the son you have always longed for." Geppetto's wife shook her head, and I could see there were tears in her eyes. "You are the kindest of men, Geppetto, and I love you because you never stop trying. You never stop hoping. But it's useless, I tell you, hopeless. You'll never have a son of your own." And again she turned her face to the fire and wept. Geppetto the woodcarver took down his tool from the wall, rolled up his sleeves, and wiped his nose with the back of his hand. Then, looking down on me, he said, "I will make a boy of you, block of wood. I will make a son for my darling wife and me. So lie still and be good. It won't hurt." I was terrified. I tried to yell, I tried to scream, but no sound came out. So of course he heard nothing. But I need not have worried. Geppetto was right. It didn't hurt at all. It felt as if he was tickling me. My hair, my ears, my forehead, as he worked on them, chiselling them into shape, they simply tickled. I wanted to giggle, to laugh out loud, but I couldn't. And when he made my eyes, I couldn't move them either. Not at first. All I could do was stare at him. "It's rude to stare, you know," he said. "I knew a little boy once who stared, and he picked his nose too. He was called Pinocchio." There you are. That shall be your name, Pinocchio. Now for your nose, which you should never pick, because that is ruder than staring, and Carissima Mia would not like it. Geppetto had trouble with my nose. It seemed to be too long for my face, but he didn't want to risk cutting it off altogether, so in the end he left it too long, something I often blamed him for later. Children often blame their fathers and mothers later on. It's quite natural. The real trouble came when he made my mouth. Now I could giggle and laugh, but not out loud yet, because I still had no voice, you remember. But inside, and I was killing myself with laughter, if you know what I mean. It tickled so much. The face was the most complicated part. That's what took the time. After that, the neck, the shoulders, the stomach, the legs, the arms, the hands all came fairly easily. I could see how excited Geppetto was, how delighted he was with his handiwork. At last, as I lay there on the table, arms and legs outstretched, staring up at him, he stood back, hands on his hips, smiling down at me. "You'll do, Pinocchio," he whispered, "you'll do." Then he picked me up gently in his arms and carried me over to where his wife still sat gazing into the fire, brushing her tears away. He set me on her knee and took her arms and put me round me so that I was cradled in her lap. One large tear fell on my cheek, and suddenly I could move. Suddenly my voice came back to me too. "Mama!" I cried. "Papa!" "Pinocchio!" They were so happy. Mamma held me up higher and then hugged me to her. They took a hand each to help me walk. But after going once or twice around the room, I didn't need them any more. Within moments I was walking on my own, a little wobbly maybe, but not falling over. Not once. Then I was running all around the room, skipping with joy, jumping over the stools. I could do the splits, I could do somersaults, I could stand on my head. "Our brave little Pinocchio!" Geppetto cried, catching me up and setting me on his shoulder. "We have a son at last, a boy of our own." And together, me, my new mamma and papa took me out into the streets to show me off to the world. As word spread around the town, everyone in Naples came running to see me. "He's not a boy," they shouted, pointing at me and mocking me. "He's just a puppet without any strings maybe, but a puppet nonetheless. He can't talk," they cried. "He can," Geppetto told them triumphantly. "Say something to them, Pinocchio." "Of course I can talk," I said. "I can walk with no one holding me," I said, and I did. "I can dance," I said, and I did. Tap dancing was easy with wooden feet. "I can do somersaults and handstands too." They were amazed, everyone was, but they didn't stop laughing at me. And, what was worse, they laughed at Mamma and Papa too, who I could tell was so proud of me. "Look how his wooden head wobbles when he walks. He isn't a proper boy," they said. "A proper boy has a mind of his own, goes on adventures. You can't make a mind out of wood, Signor Geppetto. He's not a real boy at all. Wobble head, clumsy feet, big nose." That was it. I'd had enough of all the insults. I took off, legged it, did a runner. And could I run? In leaps and bounds I ran. Tickety-tackety, tickety-cackety went my wooden feet on the cobbled streets. They tried to catch me, but I dodged and ducked. "Grab him!" they shouted. "Catch Pinocchio!" The whole town was after me. I had almost escaped from them when ahead of me, barring my way, there was a huge burly policeman, a carabine, legs apart, arms wide open to catch me. Go through his legs, I thought. It's the only way to get past him. But he grabbed me by the nose. Can you imagine the indignity of it all? And then he carried me under his arm back to Mamma and Papa, who took me home at once and put me to bed. "Never, never run away again, Pinocchio," Mamma said, hugging me tight and kissing me. Then she brought me a hug of hot milk. "You gave us such a fright," Geppetto said. "We thought we'd lost you for good. No matter what anyone says, you are our dear son, our little boy, and this is your home. Tomorrow you will go to school like all the other boys and girls." "What happens at school?" I asked them. "Well, you will read books and learn to spell and write and to add up and to take away. You will learn to have a mind of your own." "But I have a mind of my own already," I said. "I don't like this school idea at all." "You'll love it," they told me. "You'll soon make lots of friends." And there I will leave it. Enjoy. Bye. It's lovely to see you all and hope to see you again soon.